Mark, so great to meet you. Thank you, sir, for taking a minute out for the show. I
It's been
appreciate it.
great. Yeah, absolutely. It's been great.
So let's begin this journey with this question I always start with. 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing the world, changing all of us. How did
Yeah,
you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you approach coaching and life today?
that's a great question. I'm a people person, so I didn't recognize the impact of how much I needed to connect with folks, like physically. And I was actually shocked. I had been using Zoom technology, and everyone was like, Zoom became a big thing right overnight. I had been using it for years up to that point, and I do a lot of my stuff virtually to begin with, but I never realized how much that I really relied on that human connection during that period of time. And that was something that really carried me, and I was really grateful for that. But that and even just picking up the phone and having and maintaining that human connection was so important. And I found other ways to do that. I mean, I still wanted physical, touch and those sorts of things, right? But, clearly my wife and I were terrible social distancers because, our daughter, I'm 53 and now I have a 3-year old. I'm like, wow, I did not do the math on that. But all that to say that that was one side of things that really impacted me was my ability to reach out to folks. If I was just thinking of them, I literally would just pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I am anyway, but I really leaned on it very much, especially during that time.
So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do as a writer. You're a strategist. You're a coach. But let's make sense for 12-year-olds. You're in a classroom. It's career day, and the kid in the back of the room is like, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer him?
That's a good question. So as a strategist, I I combine a lot of elements which people don't necessarily make natural connections to. So you might think, well, how does leadership connect to job satisfaction from the guy who's just showing up and doing his thing every day? It's not a logical connection until you go, well, yeah, the leadership piece of that is what forms the fabric of how they experience their life every single day. And if you've got bad leadership, if you've got bad management, that can impact things. I also look at the component of infrastructure and processes. If the infrastructure and processes are not in alignment with what the strategic goals of the company are, and certainly not in alignment with what the skill set of the individuals are, there's going to be job satisfaction, right? There's going to be people who are unhappy. They're not going to want to show up. They're going to be grumbling, right? So that impacts company culture, and company brand are inextricably linked. So it's kind of one of those things where I kind of orbit the outside and just look at the inner workings of the clock and adjust the clock when it's necessary. And that's probably about the best sixth grade answer I could give.
I like it. So, what did you want to be when in the sixth grade? What was your dream career, dream job?
Pilot. I want to be
Okay.
a pilot. I knew it then that I wanted to be a pilot, no question.
I get the
Yeah.
sense you fly now. You got your license?
So I got my private pilot's license when I was 16, and I flew a little, and then but the cost of it was just tough to keep up with, especially as a 16-year-old, right?
Yeah.
And so I actually got out of the Marine Corps, or I got out of high school, went into 13th grade because my grades were kind of horrific. I tell people that I graduated the top 98% of my class, and I say that with such impact. People go, wow, top 98%. I'm like, do the math and you'll realize how bad I really was as a student. And they go, oh, yeah, the bottom 2% is pretty terrible. I'm like, yep, that's exactly where I was. The bottom 2% sounds way, way better if you say top 98%. It's all how you sell it, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't going anywhere fast, and the Marines were like, "Oh, you've got a brain. We actually were interested in you." And I was like, "Okay." Like I didn't really think I had much of a brain, but I knew I was smart enough to know how to get by, right? Like, okay, what's the minimum? Cool, I'm gonna do just that, right? And so that actually served me quite well in the Marine Corps, just to figure out like what just the fastest, most efficient way to actually get something done rather than just mark time. So anyway, long story short, I got in the Marine Corps and I became a navigator on C-130s, and that was an absolutely fantastic job. And the really cool thing is in the Marine Corps, There was a, there the in all the other services, with the exception of the Coast Guard, all of their navigators were officers. In the Marine Corps, all of the navigators were enlisted or warrant officers. So here we were PFCs and lance corporals literally as celestial navigators, and we were celestial navigators, which means this is before GPS, and we had inertial navigation systems, but this is before GPS really was all that prolific, and we were shooting celestial lines of position with a sextant over the Pacific Ocean, just shooting lines of sail to get across the ocean. So yeah, it was a pretty great opportunity for just this kid out of upstate New York.
So, speaking of the kid out of upstate New York, what was it about your early childhood that gave you this idea of wanting to be in the skies to eventually get to a point where you're a strategist, you're an author, and all of these things, getting in the Marines? What were the early seeds planted that has evolved into who you are today?
Um, the Man, that's a good question. The thing I think where we grew up specifically in in upstate New York, there was really nobody around. Like there really wasn't much. I mean, there were kids, but the kids were bigger than me, and I was in because I'm not a big guy, so and I certainly wasn't a big kid, so I was an easy target for bullies. So I just went and did my own thing, right? And they were like, "Hey, come, play with us." I'm like, "No," because it's going to descend into something like you guys want to play football, and I was fast, like, but the thing was, once they got a hold of me, it was like, like, okay, you're gonna break me in half, right? So that just sucked. So I just didn't really play with them much. So the really interesting thing was during that time, I became very self-sufficient, very independent, and I could figure things out pretty quickly. Like I knew how to how do you like dry your socks when they get wet and you're out in the field, right? Like I knew how to do stuff like that. I knew how to make a fire. I knew how to do things like this. And that was all stuff that really, what I didn't understand was how much it was building all this requisite knowledge. And that requisite knowledge was really just about, or that requisite variety, I guess is probably a better way to say that. And this tees into something known as Ashby's law of requisite variety, where you have all these different things that you know how to do, and that really sows the soil for being a solid generalist in this world where there's so many people who are really good at one or two very narrow things. There isn't really much room for a generalist, except when you've got all these independent people who are really good at these specialties and in all these different areas. Sometimes they don't know how to talk to one another. And that's really where I found, operating as a CSO, chief strategic officer, or just as a general strategist for small business owners, it's really fit well into that paradigm because there's just so many people that are like, I don't know. I have to rely on the specialist and just hope to God he's steering me in the right direction and giving me good advice. So I feel like all of those different areas, especially growing up the way that I did. My father, he flew, he was a pilot, but he didn't do that for a living. He just had his private pilot's license. So just understanding all of those different areas of how to just figure problems out on your own, like when you're up in the air, you got a problem, it's you got to figure it out, right? And so I feel like all of those different areas, just through serendipity or just God's grace, it really just sent me in the right direction.
So, who's been a hero? Who's been that inspirational force that's allowed you to have this confidence, to taste this success? Who's that been for you?
My mom and my dad, no question. Of course, I've had mentors show up along the way, but my mom and my dad, my mom came here, immigrated here from Scotland, and she was brilliant. She really was. She was very smart, and she not educated. Let me just say it that way. Not like knew lots of things, but she was an emotionally intelligent woman, and she understood that, and she was very caring. But she wasn't. There was no theater with her, right? It was no grandiose moments with her, and she was just a wonderful, wonderful woman. My dad was a self-made man who literally just through grit and just sheer getting things done. He had a very strong action bias, and he built literally from scratch a trucking business, which I think at the pinnacle had three or 400 trucks and probably 500 to 1,000 trailers. I mean, it was a big operation across the all across the New York State area. During that time, it was Reagan had just deregulated the industry, so it was a good time for him to get out. But he was able to purchase either routes or the companies that would allow him access to those routes, and just between the two of them, they just really they inspired me in lots of different ways. So yeah, they were a big influence in my life.
So, in the realm of leadership, as we grow up, well, I'm the same age. I'm 53, product of the 80s. And this isn't a political thing, but I remember when Reagan would talk at the end of something that would happen when we were kids, whether it
Right.
was the shuttle explosion or any other calamity, and there was a level of calm. There's those overt levels of leadership we saw, and there's those little tiny voices.
Yeah.
What was leadership examples that you had growing up that's been seminal for you in your development and ideology of how you present strategy?
I remember there was it was kind of one of those little bits and pieces along the way, right? You don't really realize it's leadership until you see it after the fact. And it was um the things that it was probably more out of frustration where I would say like I'm never going to do that because would remember and keep in mind like we were if we're 53 depending on where you grew up like we were just on the cusp where teachers weren't allowed to put hands on you anymore, right?
Uh-huh.
Like it was, we were right on that line on the other side. And I think some of those old school teachers were kind of like, man, I want to break a ruler across your hands. But that there was just because I said so thing for us as Gen Xers, that didn't fly.
Right.
Like that wasn't good enough. And I feel like that really shaped who I became as a leader and and but we also grew up with consequences. And I think that also really shaped who I am to recognize that if I did something and I messed up, it was on me to fix it, right? Now, and that's that can run both ways, right? That can run into its excess as well. But where sometimes you do need help, and that's a problem I often see with small business owners is that most small business owners that I come in contact with, they are really smart and they have a really good work ethic. The problem is that they're really smart and they have a really good work ethic. So they think that every problem is theirs to solve. And because they have such a good work ethic, they'll work at that same problem for 20, 30 hours at a stretch. Meanwhile, it's could be something that they could hand off to someone else with just a little bit of training and recognizing, hey man, this is a $12 an hour problem and you're getting your billing rate's $150 an hour. You're literally costing yourself $138 an hour when you're messing around with these reconciliations or messing around with these other low volume, low impact tasks. So, to answer that question about impact of leadership and those sorts of things, that took me a while, like to really unpack and really recognize that being a good leader didn't mean doing all the things. Maybe I had to have knowledge in those things, but also allowing other people to actually do the things that they're great at and not crap all over them when they're trying to be in contribution.
For sure. So we're both at that age where we're on this weird cusp line. So when you see the word retirement flash in front of your eyes, what do you think about?
Retirement? Oh man. I know what others think, but for me, I I definitely look at it in a very different way. Is I don't see it as the sitting in a rocking chair on a porch watching the grass grow that maybe when we were young is the vision of retirement that maybe was painted for us. In in retirement, I'm seeing it more um as just the freedom to do what it is that I want to do. And right now, I don't see that as being anything different than what I'm doing right now. I am having an absolute blast uh, learning. I went back to school. I'm pursuing my PhD in organizational psychology. I'm like 53. What do I have to prove? Nothing. That's the point.
Yeah.
I'm still writing books. I'm working on my ninth book. If my bride, I mean, she's like, she says she's done with having kids, and then she's like, but I kind of want another one. I'm like, all right, clock's ticking. You're 40. Like, we got to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure we're done. But the thing is, like, all that to say, like, we have so much life left to live. I think for me, that's really about that expansion and that freedom and just looking at other things that we really want to do and what's in alignment with our personal vision. So I think really to answer that question, it's about having a really clear vision of what we want for our future and then actually living that future.
So, if you had a dream tonight, ran to the 18-year-old version of you, and you had a book in your hands, a big coffee table book, and you handed it over, and it was your life so far, would that young version of you believe that your life turned out this way?
Not even remotely close. Not even remotely close. And that's probably you probably asked that question of other people, and I'd be curious at how many actually said, "Oh, absolutely," right? Like it was
Yeah,
perfectly.
yeah. It's
I
rare.
love that question.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's rare. Yeah, I couldn't have imagined certain things, right? I thought I'd be taller by now,
yeah,
but that's okay. But all kidding aside, I love the journey that I've been on. I love that it's at times sucked. I love that I've been through what I've been through, um, even though at times it was just horrific and bad and hard. But not to get super biblical, but James talks about this perseverance, right, that we learn during hard times.
yeah.
And that, man, I'm telling you, like, tough times are the best teachers.
They are.
And we don't learn much from success, but we learn a hell of a lot from our failures
Yeah.
and from when things are hard. So I kind of I like the dichotomy. I
Yeah.
like it when when I'm coasting, and I like it when I'm climbing, but I really do appreciate both.
So let me ask you this. Aside from your family, when you look back on your career and your life, what are you the proudest of? What are you the happiest about?
I am I'm proud that I went to the Marine Corps. That was something I never imagined, and I look back and I'm like, man, I don't know if I looked back again that I would do that again. Like maybe I didn't really understand what I was signing up for, probably a little bit of that, but that was hard. Like that was really hard. And then boot camp wasn't as hard as navigation school. Navigation school, imagine being in a school which was just designed to stress you out and you did it for 6 months, and every day these people encouraged you to quit. That was what navigation school was. And it was because they're relying on you. Again, you're the literally the only one. You might be 1,000 miles from land in any direction over the Pacific Ocean, and you're the only one who knows where you are.
Yeah.
It's not time to go, yeah, I quit, I'm done,
Right.
right? Like in these sorts of things, and there's people's lives very much on the line when you're flying along the ground at 300, 250 knots, roughly 300 miles an hour, 300 feet off the ground in a C-130. That's not time to not be paying attention because you're going to fly into a pole that someone put up, or a tower that someone put up because you didn't chum your chart, right? So it's just sorry, that means updating your chart, right? Chumming the chart is updating the chart.
Yeah.
So these are the sorts of things that I'm very proud of. But the other things are just sticking with things, because again, me and my beautiful ADHD brain, when things get hard, it's really easy to look around and start to think about other things and that shiny object syndrome. Um, that those two things I think is the things that I'm the most proudest of is my service and then actually sticking with the things that I actually started.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, Mark, everyone has a perception of you. There's all these bubbles of people in your life, family, friends, clients, everyone that gets your books, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, man, that's a tough one. Uh, I think I'm kind. I think I'm kind. I think I have a great deal of empathy. I'm thoughtful. Um, those are probably the characteristics that I like people to think of me the most. Um, The other ones, I tend to be a freaking know-it-all. And I try to temper that. I'm like, hey, are you open to some thoughts? Right. And as a strategist, of course, that kind of makes me great as a strategist, but sometimes I can be that guy. And I absolutely do not want to be that guy for folks. But yeah, the good things about showing up with empathy and showing up with kindness and being that good friend to anybody, that's what I think I'm best at.
So I see your books back there. You're working on your 10th. You got a lot of books on your odometer. If anybody wants to pick up a copy, they want to hire you, book a call. Where's the best place to go?
Go to strategicboardroom.com. That's probably the best way. You can get there's a bunch of free stuff on there. I mean, you won't have any trouble finding how to get a hold of me or how to get any other stuff if they're interested.
Final question is an adventurous spirit that you have. If you could get into a time machine and either go in the future 20 years and see what happened, or go in the past and see one event with your own eyes, and it won't be a back to the future scenario, you won't make a tear in time, what would you do?
Um, oh man. In any one point in time?
Yeah, I mean, like if you wanted to see an event happen before your eyes, is there something that you would love to have been there to witness?
Ah, oh man, that's a tough one.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, it could even
Gosh.
be a period in time.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I was born in the wrong era. Like I feel like the 50s, right, would have been great.
Yeah,
But I also would have loved to experienced and been around during biblical times just to
yeah.
understand what they were going through. Part of me and it's just this weird thing. Like I kind of want to be around like during the time of the crucifixion. Like to
Mhm.
me, I don't know why that absolutely fascinates me. But also because of the beauty of it, right? Like not in a weird way, but just
Sure.
something that I just want to experience, and like and just see what they were experiencing and understand that time and understand that climate. Um, yeah, and I'm a total nerd when it comes to the history of things. For me, it's no question I wouldn't want to go into the future.
Right.
Yeah, I think, but the other thing is too, because just understanding like during the time of the Industrial Revolution, those periods of time were absolutely fascinating as
Yeah.
well. But then again, I don't know. I really love ibuprofen, and I
Yeah.
really love
I get
I
it.
I really love bacon cheeseburgers from Wendy's. So I
Uh,
don't know. I don't know how well I would do.
You know, it's interesting. I remember reading Weekly Reader when we were kids, and they would always talk about the future. And I was like, wow, that is wild. You can see somebody on a screen, you can
Yeah,
do these things are flying around, and
yeah.
it's all happening. Like all of that stuff. And I'm like, I'm good. I don't know that I need to go 20 or 30 years. I think our timeline of going from a rotary dial phone to
Yeah.
the speed of AI, I think we've seen in our Gen X timeline some crazy stuff.
That is such a good point. Well, I think we're actually living in a time capsule
Uh-huh.
already, time machine already. Yeah, that is a really good way to put that. But so I think, yeah, for me, I think safer for my mental health, I
Yeah.
probably would want to go back.
Yeah.
But as long as I can go back with the inoculations that I currently have,
Exactly.
because I don't really want typhoid.
That's it. No, I totally get it. Man, this has been great, Mark. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. Best of luck. Have a great 2026, man. I appreciate it.
Truly a pleasure. You the same, brother.
Thank you.